session is over, I'm going to post the recording in the group, and you'll be able to access it anytime. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. So if anyone can confirm the screen is visible.
Yeah, it is.
All right, thank you. Just let people in. Okay, so I'm going to start. So here we are all here for the session on project-based learning. I'm gonna side by side have people be admitted. So we are here for project-based learning. So this basically, before we start, a little introduction about myself. I'm a Google certified educator, a Google certified trainer, and I am also a Google certified trainer. I am with AIEF for a long time, and I'm here to present a session on project-based learning. Presently, I'm working with the French Embassy School. It's been about 16 years. I've been here 17th year running, and I've been into the international system. To begin with, my journey was with Indian schools, and then I hopped on very quickly to American school, moving to British school, and then going on to French Embassy. So I've kind of gauged and studied all kind of curriculums. I have personally never been able to work in the Indian system of education. However, my son goes to an Indian school, so through him, I'm viewing the ICSE board, and I myself am from a CBSE board. So things have changed, and educators like you all keep on sharing your competencies, your experiences. So that does make me a bit in touch with the program that we are all following in CBSE and other different boards. So here we have got project-based learning. We are all talking about, which talks about experience that kids have with different sort of training that you're doing in classroom these days. They are, I think, with COVID, they are up ahead of classroom teaching. They're up ahead of just books, pen and paper. So they need something more as when we talk about project-based learning. So what we officially define project-based learning is a teaching method that it's called, which talks about sustaining and gaining knowledge, skills by working for an extended period of time to investigate and respond to an engaging, complex question, problem, or a challenge that's been given to them. We are all talking about real world life problems for them. Now, here, when we are learning from theory and textbooks, they no longer are enough for students in the 21st century to effectively handle the challenges of our modern society. Children really need to develop these 21st century skills, which include creative and critical thinking. They include problem solving skills, teamwork, and learning passionately. So this is what we are going to discuss in this session. For you, what do you understand with project-based learning? So for me, when I studied project-based learning and we all were practicing it, we might not officially call it project-based, but we've been doing it throughout, on and off, in our education system from daily basis. So what we are talking about, PBL here, is passion. For me, that what I could understand. problem, which is a problem-based learning. We can talk about a project-based learning, and we can talk about practice-based learning. So we are all talking about these different kinds of learning we are working around. Amit sir, can I make you the host if that's okay with you? And you
Yeah,
can admit
absolutely
the
fine.
people.
Yeah, yeah, no problem.
So
I was about to say that.
I'm gonna just make you the host moderation. So would you help me with this? It's in the host controls normally, isn't it?
Just go to the show everyone and click on the three dots. You have the option where you see all the participants,
Yeah.
more actions.
There you go. Is that okay, sir?
Yeah, yeah, it's work.
Perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you. So we are talking about PBL. When students are taught PBL, they get to put theory in practice and are taught to find multiple solutions to issues given to them, which are related to them. They are mostly solutions to problems that they connect to better. So if you give them something out of context, it makes no sense for them. So it doesn't interest them. So for us, students work on a project here which is over an extended period of time. It could be just a small week project, or it could long up to a semester or even to a year. So that is what it is helping them. So in PBL, teachers are making learning more alive in their classrooms for students. It's a student-centered pedagogy that involves dynamic classroom approach in which students acquire deeper knowledge through active exploration of real-world challenges and problems. What it means is it engages them in solving real world problem or answering a complex question. They demonstrate their knowledge and skills by creating a public product or a presentation for a real audience. So they know once they're working on something, it could be just as simple as a poster, a small infographic, or a chart paper, a presentation for someone, but they know it's for an audience. It's not just for their teacher or their class within the four walls. It will go outside, so that develops a sense of ownership for them, a moment of pride when they know they have to present it somewhere officially. As a result, what happens is students develop this deep content knowledge because they're researching themselves. They are being critical thinkers. They are collaborating. They enhance their creativity and communication skills. So for us, project-based learning, if we understand this, would unleash a contagious and creative energy among students and teachers. So this would be the teacher guiding the students as just facilitators, and they lead the lesson. Once they're being given the guidelines, they lead the session on their own. So here, when we are talking about PBL, so our main center, it rotates. So it is not one-way process. Anytime in the middle of your process, you can come back to a step, revisit it, and start again from there. So it is not beginning to end, and you motivate the child to begin something. In the middle, the child is stuck. There is no help. And then at the end, when the project is done, the teacher says, oh, it's not done. Ye acha kaam nahi hua. It's not good for the project. So that is a big demotivating factor for the student. So project learning enhances that. It makes sure the child is there as he's been guided, but he's on his own through a list of criteria that's been given. A rubric is being placed. So our first criteria in project-based learning would be wherein the teacher itself starts with a driving. It starts with a driving question, a challenge that ignites the students' curiosity. What do they want to find out? Then, as a teacher, we lead the students to figure out the resources they can research for more information. You could have the kids in the process being partners with you, wherein you ask them, what is it that they want to research? But of course, you are leading them through a way which they do not see. You can tell them these are the booklets. We remember, and these booklets will help you go on. And this is information for you on, let's say I did a project. I'll give you an example. I did a project with rivers of India. So that was my social studies integrated science topic. And we did this Rivers of India. The kids were divided into groups of 4 or 5. They were given a small research booklet, which was all information about different rivers. So we had rivers according to the zones of India. So we had north, south, east, west. So Narmada River was given to a group, Brahmaputra was given. Then they had to make, out of that, they had to make an ecosystem around that river. So they were given the resources, they were given shoebox and trays, plastic trays. They had to be imaginative, creative. Each one had a role to play. As a teacher, to begin with, you can of course set those roles yourself, but at the same time you can have them decide. Once you know the child has experienced this project based learning, they are good to go. Depending on the level of the students, you can always place them on their independence, and you will just not believe how beautiful they come up with as a resource that they are being shared with, and the final product is what you will be really amazed at. These days, again, another example, these days when we're talking about project based learning, we're talking about real life experience. Kidzania, it's a wonderful experience in Delhi, in Noida, in fact, in Uttar Pradesh. If you know of Noida, there is a place, Kidzania, wherein kids are given access for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and you have real life simulations there. You go to an airport, you are inside the cockpit, you dress up as a pilot, and you have all the system there which gives you real simulations. You go to a bakery, you dress up like a baker, you get to bake things and you sell them off, you eat your own product. You go to, again, there is a station for shopping. You are a manager, a store manager, and you're dealing with money. That's Kidzania money. That's the zone it is called. And you again get an exchange of the real life transaction and business sense that you get. So there are different kinds of fields. So that's a beautiful experience and kids love it. It's a whole thing for about 3 hours, 4 hours. You leave them, they are inside, they cannot go out, but then there is an experience that they feel and they would want to explore each and every unit. So these are just few examples I gave you. So here, when the teacher has given the research information, now PBL is primarily next as a student driven learning process. As we discussed, the teacher just acting as a facilitator or a guide for them. Students here develop those 21st century skills and focus on constant reflection. So it's not just, like I said, one-way process. You discuss with your peers, you discuss with your teammates, you discuss with the teacher, constant feedback is being exchanged, and the assessment of their own learning happens as they go through the whole process. It, like I said, it could be short-term, or it could be a whole semester, it could be just a month, it could be a period semester. So you just have to decide how long is your target, but do guide them with giving them rubrics of, this is where I expect you to be by the end of this month, or by this date I want you to be finished with this. So they have to have a clear guidance, giving them enough time. So that's how it all rolls out. So we were talking about the 21st century skills. Then the next one we look at is projects with students' presentation to a public audience to conclude what they've learned. So after the feedback and solution, we've got these presentations that happen with the community with public presentation. So for example, whenever it's possible, you can take out students to outdoor learning, to learn from a variety of people and resources, both inside and outside the classroom. They'll have that. Just going out to the garden and talking to the gardener bhaiya. So I think that's a good start to begin with. And then when the children get to experience that learning by doing, they become inspired, they become curious. And most importantly, they do not forget what they learn. Like I said, Kidzania, that's the whole deal with Kidzania, wherein they get to learn the whole experience. Through PBL, children work in teams, so they develop cooperative and collaborative social management skills. So when we are moving to the next one here, we are talking about collaborative and social skills. Here, what's happening? Just give me a one minute, just. So here, when we are talking about like I said, when children, they get the experience by doing, they do not forget. So through PBL, children learn to work in teams. They develop collaborative social management skills. The PBL takes place alongside the regular. So you don't have to prepare something extra, very different. They take place alongside regular routine academic learning, so it can be fit into your program. I was doing Rivers of India. I could have just read the chapter from the book and given it. There was a questionnaire, a quiz done, and it's part of our regular tests. It's done. But here, when I tell them to create that, they're learning to make that ecosystem on their own with that little tray or a shoebox. They are exploring the information that they want and what is the criteria I've given them already in a rubric. So they are following that. That interests their learning, and they're already there with a lot of ideas. Learning from project-based learning also involves connecting different subjects together. So when we are talking about cross-curricular subjects, you can take a little as a week. You can take as long as the students are interested. When you feel abhi boring ho raha hai now, they do not want it anymore, give it a pause or just stop it. Just end it in a way that kids have acquired what they needed, and that's it. When the students, I feel, take charge of their learning, they learn the skills to change their lives, to take charge of their lives. So facilitating a PBL is easier when teachers explore and pick up something which is explored based on children's interest, and it implements their ideas in the project. So you're not saying maine bola to aise hi hoga. Like there are some art teachers I know of, they want it a certain way that ye char colors use honge and this medium is what has to be used. The child's creativity dies. They are forced to do it. Some students, like when we're talking about personalized education this time with these 21st century skills, in the same class out of 50 students or 40 students, not everybody will learn through the book. Not everybody can do rote learning. So you have to cater to such things wherein jo books se padhne wala will go back to the book still for their exam and come back with good results. Those who are not there yet, you still have a scope wherein the other students, these students can always go back to the learning they did during the creation of this, the module that you wanted them to do. The end result, उसमें से 80%, 90%, 100% तो सीख ही जाएंगे, depending on their again learning abilities. So you are giving a chance to the entire group of children, however they learn. Some learn in a group, so you are again giving them also a chance. Now, when we talk about hybrid learning, again through PBL, now we are all back from COVID to our regular classrooms. We move to blended learning, to hybrid. So we have to fit in our project-based learning during that time. So here the definition that everybody is looking at on internet is the learning that's an educational system that creates a dynamic classroom and it customizes instruction. It is depending on personalized student approach. It is designed to improve academic process by increasing student engagement and motivating students to succeed. So for me, hybrid learning is a teaching learning system that rotates students from different learning stations. So you have got small stations. I also have an activity in my class at times. It doesn't happen every time, but there are weeks when I'd like to do that. So Monday when I have the class, I have given them a sheet with 5 activities they have to do. For example, they have got math, and it is all subjects. I am the class teacher. I have all the subjects. So I have that. But if you're a one subject teacher, you can put in your, for example, an English teacher would give in your comprehension, spellings, grammar, some puzzles and games, and some creative writing. That could be your 5 stations. You give them a checklist and a rubric. You have to go to this station. So you've got 5 lessons in a week, for example. You will go on Monday, you have got 15 minutes or 20 minutes. You choose any station, or in the beginning, you may also assign a station to a child. You say, okay, today, these 4 children will be working on this station. So they will go, they will pick up a sheet, if it's a sheet, and they come back. Then you move on to the second day. Once this child has finished, if he's finished within the time, he can go and move on to maybe a computer that's placed for playing quiz. So that child moves to the quiz and the other children rotate. The child comes to you with this sheet. I have done this. Here is my submitted sheet. You have the work ready. He can move to the next station. So this is station-based approach. So at the end of the week, in 5 lessons, all the children will end up doing all the 5 activities. You are just there. It's your work easier. You have to just plan ahead a little. And then during the lesson, you're just there as a guide. Kisi ko koi problem hai, to you help them. Otherwise, you just leave them alone. They will come back. And that sense of competitiveness also increases with this system. They get to work in groups. So if there are 4 people or 10 people working in a group at a table, they get to discuss their solutions, their answers, unless and until you plan it as a test. But a regular class system does beautifully work with these stations, wherein you have got digital as well as face-to-face instructions to differentiate student education. Now, when we are looking at project-based learning, we have to think of how to get this higher quality of student work in a project-based learning. I thought the project was going well, but by the end, I felt that the work my students produced was not good as I imagined it to be. I was a little embarrassed and almost wanted to dial back the audience expectations on the day of the presentations. So this is what people are thinking about. बहुत अच्छा था. This is a common concern when a teacher presents the project-based learning. कि शुरू तो अच्छा हुआ था, but after that it all started dissolving and it didn't work out well for me. Things can appear to be going smooth. Students are engaged by the project and they're busy. They are meeting their deadlines. So, meeting the deadlines when you're working right now as teachers in professional life, we always talk about deadlines. ये report card का deadline है, ये project का deadline है, ये आपका exhibition का deadline है. This is the parent teacher meeting. By this time, it has to be done. So we are all working. So this is again a real life skill that there are some deadlines you have to meet no matter what you do. So, however, at the end of the project, the evidence of their thinking and learning is not as robust when you are doing this constantly as it should be, and their final products are not polished. So when you're talking about these deadlines, there is a rat race you're running towards. So that is not what our objective is. So here what we're talking about is, if this is your experience, when you feel कि हमने काम तो शुरू किया project-based learning में, maybe some of you have tried it and it's not gone that successful. So this is what I've thought of about 5 or 6 questions. We are going to take it up one by one. So my first question that comes to my mind is, did I use rubrics as exemplars for the industry professionals to help students and the quality of work that was expected? So here, to think of simply telling the students that you want them to do high quality work is not enough, nor giving them a checklist to track this completion, but not quality. So here we're not looking at the quantity of the work, we're looking at the quality, how it is produced. Most PBL teachers we know of, they need rubrics in order to assess the complex products and performance tasks typically seen in projects. That's all what we know. But rubrics, have you thought of what they are, what they need, what should be included? Well, it should be used throughout a project as a tool for guiding students as they work. You introduce the rubrics near the beginning of the project. Take time to help them understand the expectation the rubric conveys and practice using it to analyze the work. To have students practice your rubric, how do you do that? You find exemplars for them. Give them models, the kind of work that you require to do in a project. If you have picked up a topic and you want kids to make a poster, let's say for a Christmas carnival, there is a carnival coming, a fete or a mela in your school, and you want them to prepare a big poster to put up. And you say, okay, 10 good posters from entire grade will be chosen to be on display. Let's say that's the project, as simple. So here, it is not a bad deal to show them, go over the internet. The technology is all around the work. Web is all full of resources. Just open a resource on Google, look for a Christmas mela or a Christmas carnival poster or a flyer. You will get one. They will get to see, they'll imagine, they'll visualize what they're asked for. And this would be made by professionals, or which is already there in a school. It is thereby in the market, available in their own area. So that gives them ideas that it is created by the professionals or adults. It could be used as real examples to have student-centered example for past years that you can use. For example, if a students need to write, another example I would take is like a scientific report they need to write. So they have to investigate, show them one by one on a different topic to prevent direct copying. So you need to tell them it is okay to refer to something. It is okay to check how and what is included, but it's not okay to directly copy. But if you're copying the way it is formatted, yahan pe ek picture hai, yahan title hai, that is not copying. So they need to understand the difference. You have to explain them from a very early age. If they need to build on a museum style display, for example, take them to a museum. Visit some artifact or a view of art. Google has a lot of resources. I am sorry, I am too much into Google, so I will always cite examples from Google. So we've got that arts and culture. Google Arts and Culture is one resource hub that you have, and you have simulations, and you've got those 3Ds that you can walk across with students. You can show them videos, you can show them photos of resources that you want, or physically show them examples of a creation, a model, a 3D that is in front of you. Then have the students use the rubric to assess the quality of exemplars and debate their evaluation. Check with them. It's not one way, it is both ways. Maybe the child, you believe you me, now by now in 2 years, you would have seen how smarter the kids are. They are able to defeat themselves, they are able to defeat their own weaknesses, and they're able to deal with all these comments the teacher gives them on daily basis, and they are able to explain well their part, put up their part very clearly. So they are quite capable of doing that. So when these evaluations come into your class and you arrive at a consensus, this is the calibrated criteria that you give them. Moving on to my next question, it says this: did my project include effective formative assessment? Well, your project calendar should include frequent and various opportunities for students to demonstrate their learning. So you can say, okay, let's show our prototype first. Once it's done, what is the first? Prototype could be just a schema of work, a paper that they have, which they've made a rough sketch of what they will bring it as. It could be just a simple Google slide or a presentation that they want to show to have a feedback from students. It is not motivating for students to finish the product at the end and then the teacher saying or the children saying, yeah, acha nahi hai, it's not good, maybe the colors could have been more bright. It is really not motivating for the students. So check their understanding. Again, it's as a teacher, you also get to know that whether they understood the concept, whether they are still kind of confused. So that is where you need to work on in the middle of the rubric, in the middle of the project, towards the beginning, towards the end. All that from each step has to be very clear, and a regular feedback has to be given to them. My third question talks about, did the students have enough time to revise and polish their work? What we were talking about in the first question was about deadlines. Now, when we're talking about deadlines, काम तो हो जाएगा, but उतना polished or finished काम नहीं होगा. Especially the first time when you're conducting this project in your class, it can be difficult to estimate time. We all agree with that. You might think 2 classes or 3 classes are enough for this, but maybe it is not. Maybe you'll realize, oh, I can give them 2 more sessions. They can have 2 more. कुछ नहीं होता, program थोड़ा सा इधर उधर हो जाए तो we can, I'm sure, minus some things and add some things which are fun for them. At the end of the day, you want them to love you. You want them to follow you as a remembrance in their minds. So it can be difficult, like I said, to estimate time. It will take students to think of high quality product. It will take some time for them. After students receive the first feedback or the mid feedback, as we call it, they need time to reflect it, to revise their work. Abhi aapne unko feedback diya, next week you cannot expect them to get the work. Give them some time to work on. Be sure to build time. So in that case, make sure you have time for feedback, for revision, for reflection, and into your plans from the beginning. You have to have that buffer time given to your students. My fourth question to have this high valued PBL is, did the project feel authentic enough to motivate students? Now here, did they really care about what they were doing? While we are doing a project should increase the students' motivation to learn and produce quality work for several reasons. One, the students should care about the issue, the problem, the topic that they're investigating, because they see it as a relevance in their own lives. The answer to the project's driving question matters to them should be your objective. Students care about the fact, second, that they are producing a work for a public audience. It's not just any other instance of turning something into my teacher and another casual presentation in front of the class. They will come to know of the quality of a product matters if they want to impact the world. and you will see the difference in the presentation of the project. Third, I feel students feel the sense of authenticity when they collaborate with adult professionals. A child whose father is a doctor, you are talking about health in your class, for example, with the little ones. Have that parent visit your class, talk about some things. If he's a ophthalmologist, an eye doctor, just have the doctor visit and tell the children, some tips on how to stay away from screen or how to take precaution when you're using too much of screen. Health issues, whatever is in the season at that moment, help them, give them some tips, have the doctor come in and give them some tips. If there is a parent who's into office work, like a manager, you can and it can start as early as possible. It does not have to be in high school or middle school. It can even start at the early stages of a primary school, wherein the students feel that sense of what I said, authenticity, कि हम किसी बड़े डॉक्टर से बात कर रहे हैं, किसी हम बड़े प्रोफेशनल से बात कर रहे हैं, an expert, a community member, for example. Have a bhaiya in our school, a peon. Have them share their life experiences on something. They create a questionnaire of 10 questions. What do you want to ask the bhaiya about their family? So that is how they do the sense of dealing with everyday people that they are around. So you cannot say that they are not our level, we don't want to talk to them. So that sense would start from these project-based learnings. It's part of your program to develop good humans, good citizens. So coming to my fifth question, does my classroom and my school cultivate a culture of quality? Now here we spoke about it as not taking it as quantity-based, but quality. So in addition to all the above 4 questions that we said, there's a less tangible but very important aspect to getting students to do high quality work culture. So the culture has to be brought in. Like I gave an example of talking to a school staff about how to promote commonly held classroom norms that encourage students to take those risks in life. Kharab ho jayega, koi baat nahi. You get another shoebox if you're doing a project in a shoebox. If you're doing it on a tray, you want to experiment something, toot jayega, koi baat nahi. Poster rep hat jayega. Presentation dobara ho jayegi. Be persistent. Value their feedback. They are giving something and expect much of themselves and their peers. So here is what we could think of. I could think of being in the field. If anybody wants to at this point add anything of how you feel about high quality student, to produce a high quality student using the PBL, we can stop for a little pause to have a discussion, or if you want, I can move on. If there are any questions, we can take up, or we move on. Okay, so I don't see any hands raised. So maybe you can keep writing your questions. So here, some examples now we're going to take about. So I'm a primary school teacher. So I took examples of kindergarten. And I also have some examples to show you of a upper elementary class or an elementary class. You can always change it to different levels of grades. So that depends on how you would want to take it. So here, when we are talking about kindergarten, again, there are some guidelines that I kept here for kindergartners. We've got hold on high expectations for every student. You cannot say any student who's less or more qualified or equipped. You have to imagine, मेरा छोटे से छोटा बच्चा भी कुछ भी अच्छा produce कर सकता है. Second, you must focus on the quality of thinking, not the quantity. If the child is thinking and he's just given one small idea, I'll give you an example real soon with that. It's amazing how that happens. So kindergarten students can do rigorous projects. There is something magical about watching our youngest students engage in deep critical thinking and discussion. I don't know how many of you have worked with the little ones, reflecting on their work strengths and areas for improvement, critiquing their work, revising and producing that high quality work is a main goal. As a plan and facilitating a project for younger students, we need to keep sure these guidelines, 4 guidelines that we were just talking about. So here, holding high expectations for every students, we said we've known for some time that teachers with high expectations of their students tend to get more high quality work. Teachers with low expectation for students tend to get low quality work, because in their mind they've set up this project saying इससे ज्यादा नहीं हो सकता, ये बच्चे नहीं कर सकते, या ये वाला बच्चा cannot do it. So if the teacher has that belief, believe you me, if the teacher thinks high, she will get high results. If the teacher thinks okay, ho jayega, whatever it is the need I need to do as part of my job, you will get low quality work independent of students actual ability. You believe me, no matter how smart your kids are, if you don't have that belief, you will not get it. I see the younger students hesitate to implement the critique protocols where students could get cool feedback from the teacher. They get those feedbacks in terms of pictorial stickers. They get those little stamps on their hands. That really motivates them. Focusing, secondly, my guideline was to focus on quality of thinking, not the quantity. The amount of paper when I walk across in a kindergarten is astounding to me. Students are churning out worksheets, cutting and wasting paper. They're pasting it here. The block pattern designs, the amount of it in your students get what you're doing is. So it's at a rapid pace what you see across. So instead of worrying about the practice and the amount of it you're getting as students, focus on the quality of thinking your students are doing. ये मत देखिए कितना गंदा कमरा हो गया है, मेरे resources खत्म हो रहे हैं. Students can cut and paste all sort of, I would say, 24 living and non-living things, for example, in science, EVS, as we would call it. And they can engage into a classroom discussion about fire, talk to them about clouds, wind. They can ask if they're moving. Our criteria for a living thing is, can it move or not? Well, clouds can move, wind can move. So they can, you'll see how smart they are. Are they living things? Because teacher, you just said that any living thing will move. So are the clouds. They move certainly, but does that make them alive? Do they grow? Because living things are supposed to grow. So here clouds, do they grow? Fire, could it be seen growing as the cloud would? So a think, pair, share discussion or a student's thought just recorded on a flip chart, an iPad, it can tell you so much about their understanding of the subject of living and non-living things. About what they're learning, of their understanding, then giving them a fairly obvious sorting activity. Here is the pictures of living things, they are non-living, a column banao, stick living and non-living, which further on when you're discussing it, you're doing it in a different form. It involves a lot of critical thinking. You will see that higher order critical thinking is what we are talking about. Second, third, we have is a guideline which says scaffold students' journey through an ambiguous process. Ambiguity, very interesting. I wasn't witnessed, I'll give you an example of a kindergarten project which I witnessed, which focused on identifying trees around the school at the request of a principal. Now here, the principal visited a class and told the students that she needed a map identifying every tree around the school building. The teacher immediately turned out to the design of the map over to the students, and she let the students do it. They hadn't studied maps. This is what kindergartners did. They hadn't studied maps, but students had seen the maps all over. These days, as smart parents, we have maps all in our houses at least. And the teachers put them up in our classroom. So if you're teachers, you have maps somewhere or the other. One class at least would have a map where students see it. And moreover, Google Maps is what we are all following in cabs, autos, in our cars, wherever we're going to these birthday parties, you follow the map. So children know what a map looks like. They might know how it works, but they know what is a map. So the teacher, what she did was she scaffolded a discussion in which students brainstormed different ideas of creating map. Eventually, the students themselves, it's not the teacher, but the students chose one boy's idea. What was it? He said, let's collect a sample from each tree and glue it to a map to mark the tree's location. Interesting. These students might have grown using to having teacher tell them every time the way we are going to complete an assignment. But here, instead, through this teacher's facilitation skills, they took the first step towards their comfortable in and thinking about this ambiguous process. She wasn't sure if they'll be successful. And then maybe she might had to guide them. But here, it was so amazing for that child to come up with that idea. Har ped se ek leaf leke, we'll stick them on the map, and where the children see that, so there'll be a map drawn. So that is one of the ideas. When you see, do not underestimate the little ones. Last guideline on the kindergartners was to instruct and give them real feedback on success skills. So when I asked teachers what feedback would they give to the students when we are all in the staff room talking to the teachers, they are very quick to give positive feedback. It's true. These students have a strong presentation. You know, when we go and in small classes, you do these show and tells. They get something from their house, or they have a poster to present, and they're talking. It's obvious they've practiced and prepared for this presentation. But that doesn't mean it was perfect. After some encouragement, you generally get the participants to give some examples of the feedback on things the students can improve. Even though they really don't want to do so, you still give your feedback. Now, in that case, this is what the teachers said in the staff room. Now, my argument in that case was, they, to honor their work, to make it a rigorous process, is to give them real feedback. A warm feedback, sure, but a cool feedback, what they need. Even young students can and should be expected to improve their work. They can be told what to do and what not to do. Is there a question I can take up? Somebody's got a question here. I heard hand raised. Okay. So what I feel is, there's nothing more empowering to our youngest students than a message that we believe they can complete the rigorous project-based learning project, a problem-based learning project, a passion-based learning project is what the 4 P's we spoke about, we looked at in the beginning. And keeping these 4 guidelines in the forefront of your mind as you plan and facilitate your projects for these younger students will really help you ensure high level of rigor, and you will make sure all students, regardless of their age, the kind of praise they need.
Harpreet
So,
ma'am, I
Hanji
think
ma'am,
Rahul Sharma sir has some question to ask.
go ahead, Rahul sir.
Hi, Harpreet, how are you?
Very fine, sir. How are you?
I'm great. You are really doing great job, and since beginning your presentation is fantastic and energetic.
Thank you, sir.
I just want to ask one thing, like to make the presentation, what kind of Google tools we can use? Because you have been collaborating Google since so long.
Yes.
So please suggest 2 to 3 Google tools which we can use for making the project-based learning more interactive and informative.
I have that for the end of the session, sir. I will take it up if that's okay with you.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have now our next little video I have. It's a short 3-minute video. I'd like if we can just be patient and go through this video. It's about a kindergarten class. So here you go.
Can't hear it, the video.
You can't hear it?
No,
It's not audible?
no.
Okay, let me just... share it. My voice is audible, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Yes, your voice is audible.
So present the screen, I think in a tab mode. Check out, there are 3 options. Now, last one. In that case, I think the video will be.
Okay.
You have the 3rd option, no, or tab. Yeah.
Now?
Let's see. Unfortunately, no. It's still not audible.
That's sad. Let me see again.
She can try copy the link and directly play in the YouTube.
I can try that, sir. Just give me one
But
more.
in that case, remember, the tab is to be present. Generally, that will work.
Wait, sir, I will just do something else. I am just on to this. I bring it on to my. And let's see if this works. And then I'll change after. So please bear with me just one more minute and we'll be good to go. So we are here. I will present again. I'll for the moment present my entire screen and let's see if that works. Because that'll happen here, so it's okay. And now if you can tell me if it works. Is it audible now?
No.
No?
Can anyone else also confirm, because I can't hear it?
Yes, sir,
So
we also can't hear.
So what we'll do is I'll share this link in your WhatsApp group. I'll do that. I'll do that, and we maybe okay. Now just I'm playing it directly onto the YouTube. Let's see if this works. Now?
No. Harpreet, you are
There's
representing
some
the
problem
entire
with my.
screen. No. The only point is, instead of entire screen, you should share a tab, the third option. When you present your screen, ना, तो आपको टैब को करना है शेयर, तब वो आती है आवाज वीडियो की. That's the main problem here in Google Meet.
Let's check this.
I think you can paste the link in the chat box itself. The audience can watch it later on. You can explain that quickly.
Everyone, I wanted to share with that I got work.
Exclusive. I'm going to share it on the chat. There you go. So please watch it later. You can just open it on your tabs and watch it later. It just gives you a little example of what a project-based learning would look like. So here I'm going to go back to my presentation. I'll just go back to my presentation where I can present again. Can you see my screen, sir, now?
Yeah.
Okay, so we are back to this. I'm sorry. Sometimes things don't go as planned. So we were, it's a small example of how you can see how a kindergarten project worked using the PBL. So now we are moving on to, we're going to move on to our next slide, which says our primary classroom project. So these are some examples I could think of wherein you have unit 1 as toys. I just took out as some examples. So here we have some questions. Now here, these are questions when you plan your project, the first thing you have to think of is how might we question? How can we do something is my base of the project. So here my example was, how can we design a fun moving toy for other kids to build? So it could be something as my science project. I remember in our school last year we had our science project, and we were talking about recycle with my fourth grades. So with recycling, they got all the material they could. They gave us a list also, so they had to plan this in groups. So they thought of all the material that they could get from your houses, or if they needed something from the teachers end, they gave me a list that we need Play-Doh, we need paints, and the batteries, or if there are some toy blocks that they want to bring, they will bring it from their houses. So it was a planned activity. It was for about 3 weeks. 1 week they had to plan and design what they want on paper. They would color it also to show what will their prototype be like. Second lesson was planning, actually putting things in place. Third was putting it as a show for their class. Once they saw, it was wonderful project. It was also, there was like one boy who got from these mechanics game where you've got these metal blocks and strips where you make cars and screws and the screwdriver. So those was like grade 7, 8, 9 year olds playing with these. They have a battery sometimes to it if it's a high end game. So they got a battery, they got wires connected, the black and the red wire. They kind of figured out how they could be connected. There was a water bottle, a normal 1 liter water bottle. They painted it. They made with hot glue gun, they stuck the battery on the top. They made with some spokes, they made some fire kind of symbol, and they with chart paper, they designed their car. This car, that battery had a switch on it. When moved on the left would move forward, move on the right would move back. So that was kind of a car they devised out of recycle wasted material. Then another team with a garbage bag, a small black garbage bag. They used strings to attach the sides. They cut the handles to attach the three ends, and towards the end they put one heavy weight like a cork or an eraser, and they would just tie it, put it up, and it would land up as a parachute. For them, they're thinking, you say, wow, it's not a brilliant project, but yes, great. And then they explain the mechanism, how it would work. So they research. It's not just showing it ki maine kuch bana diya from Google and YouTube and it's done. They have, even if they've copied it from somewhere, they've fabricated it themselves. Once they fabricate and they make it with their own hands, the experience comes alive and they are able to explain it well. Then the second unit I could think of was birds, if you take that example, and it could be across any grade. Just the difficulty and modality would change. So here, how can we help the birds near school grow up and thrive? This is again a topic of we were working with pollution. So we thought about, birds either dying, fleeing away from Delhi. How could you help them? So we looked at just our neighborhood and the birds. So we were looking at our own neighborhood and our own community. And in that, we picked up a topic which was birds around our school. And then the kids only gave me this question that, teacher, I said, what do you want to study about birds? We've, every science class in grade 2, grade 3 talk about types of birds, different kind of claws they have. This is something different. And while they're doing the research on what kind of help they can give to the birds, they do study about different kinds of birds also. Then plants. How can we plant gardens for a community to grow plants for food? So this again would be some examples you can take up as a primary school project for project-based learning. Then again, this example wherein
Harpreet, I'm sorry to interrupt once
yes.
again. The screen says Google for Education. You are VIA 22.
Oh.
Yeah, open the different tab actually. Not your presentation actually.
Good. I don't know what's happening. Now I was on to this one. Now is primary classroom project.
अभी तो नहीं आया. Yeah, अब आ गया है.
Abhi?
Primary classroom projects. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, now it is okay.
Okay, so these were the three examples I was giving about toys, birds, and plants. So these are some questions you can think of once you're looking at the screen. Then this one was about investigating, you're making observations, asking questions, developing models, arguing with each other. So when you look at this driving question on the board that I was talking about, जो पिछली slide में हमने देखा था, how can we design a fun moving toy for other kids who can build it, or the birds? So that main question will be on my board. That's my project board. And after that, I've got, these little plans that I've given to them, the KWL sheet, as they call it, what you know, what you want to know, what you have acquired, and what you've learned. Then with little post-its, you can, make that fun for them. They, whatever they think of, they can just put it with post-its on the board. So these are some of the examples. You can represent it while the work is on. There can be a list of rubric, a checklist that can be also put up on the board. Now, another one where we can look at is examples of grade 5 endangered animals. So this was one a presentation we did for these grade 5s. So we looked at the animals. So first thing we do, now this is a quick step-by-step process. I'm going to show you how it should work. So first thing to do is to determine the objective, which we did with that question. That you have to reinvest with the understanding about what are endangered animals, and if they have a special animal which is not very common and they want to choose from a new animal they want to present. With that, their research happens. When they present it, it is to present to the whole class or a few classes or a community that they are presenting it to. So ऐसा नहीं है कि एक animal एक group कर रहा है तो वो ही करेगा, not the other groups. So everybody gets to know about 5 different animals being discussed in class, being researched about. Not because you've not researched that animal, you wouldn't get that information. So that kind of, and the evaluation happens on a different assessment. Is not कि उस animal के कितने हाथ हैं और वो क्या खाता है. That will not be the evaluation. It would be altogether a different perspective of the teacher she has to take. Now here, determining the final project, you have to decide from the beginning, what would my final product be? Will it be a poster? So you have to tell the expectation at the beginning of the session when you're starting this project. You have to see if it is a poster, it's a web page, is it a commercial or an advertising media that you're using? Is it for the school magazine that you're creating? Is it a web page that you want them to create? By the way, Google does make a lot of free web pages that you can make on Google sites. So that's one of the examples. Then you have to make sure the groups of students that you want to allocate, if they are big enough, they can choose their own groups. But as a new beginner in the project-based learning yourself, and for the children, it's a new thing where you're introducing the term project-based learning, you can devise your own groups. What I do is I've got a small group. I'm lucky to have a group of not more than 20, 22 at any time. So there are close friends, and there are some students who are always stuck to the other one. Ye mera best friend hai, main usi ke saath hi karunga. So to make my life easy, I want them to mix up with others, to have, some child is good with writing, some child is good with drawing and illustrating, some is just good with ideating. So you have to make sure there is a mix in the group. Sometimes it is the teacher who straight away says 1, 2, 3, 4, I need these children in one group. The second way is I use a wheel of names as a website. You go on, it's an online website, Wheel of Names. You just go there, you type in the names, you roll the wheel, and it itself starts giving you the names. 4 naam hoga, you give them, okay, this is the 4. So the teacher bhi bure usme nahi aati ki the teacher has chosen, it's the computer who's done the job. Yet I have my groups assigned to them. Then this will be my step-by-step work, starting from pre-production to post-production. So it should include the organized class time and the objectives for the group to meet and work. So here the production, what we are talking about is brainstorming the ideas, coming to the topic. Like I said in the beginning, try to think of a topic which can be a real life connection that they can make. Determine the roles. Who will be the writer? Who will be the poster maker? Who is good with the technical skills can be on the computer. If somebody is good with painting and art, can be the one who's making the poster. Who will be researching? But again, keeping in mind, not one child is doing the whole job. एक research कर रहा है, दूसरे बैठे जब ये research करेगा हमें तब काम देगा, हम तब drawing बना लेंगे. No. And it can also be rotational based. Each class, you can say, every role will switch. So within these 4 roles, for example, one time one will be the illustrator, next time other one will be. Even if you're not a very good illustrator, we are not producing Picassos here. We're just talking about regular sketching and drawing. Then second is production, when they're doing their individual text. This is where you will assess them as well. Exchange and review each other's text within that group. It can be first in the group, then with the whole class. Then is the production, wherein you are, it's time to meet and assemble what all you've got as your resources. Then the rough version is again exchanged either with the teacher, depending on how you would want it, or it is with the whole class, or is it just your group and the teacher goes visits one by one and you give them a feedback. Final is the time to share with the whole class their final product, which is the post-production stage, wherein you can make an exhibition for the school. So like for us, when we did these recycled objects we made, some were very good and brilliant, some were just failures, but we don't say them upfront, ye kaam nahi kiya. They just took bad looking thermocol pieces, usko scotch bana ke bol diya ki ye usme log baithe hue hain, scotch ke bundles bana ke. So that for me was a waste of my scotch. But and then they had it float in a tub. And what was the logic? They had to come up with it. So some would really come up with good ideas, some would not. But over a period, once they learn it, they look at it, that's how it will be. So I divide my session for this endangered one. It was divided into 4 sessions. Of course, there was in between homework that we had. So we explored the topic in the first lesson. We brainstormed the ideas. We made the teams, and whatever interest the kids had. For example, they took the ownership and said, "I want to be the research person here. I will bring books on the topic of my endangered animals. I've got few books on that. I would want to do the drawing part. Teacher, I can share a Google slide with the whole group and we can work at home also." Okay, so that is group work. Then my second lesson was researching, when they were compiling some list of questions, or as a teacher, general guideline questions you can give, where they are found, what they are, why are they endangered, and what are they used for. So those kind of comprehensive questions you can present it, and then they start making the rough draft. Now this is individual. Third, you do more research individually, you finish the rough draft and your questions, which is again your comprehension part, and this is the homework. When they come back to the third session, it was peer consultation, wherein if you look at this previous slide, the production time here, time to meet and assemble. This is where they shared their ideas with a peer. You could also do one thing of sending one child from your group to another group to present. Okay, abhi tak humne ye kiya hai, what do you think? And the other group, one child comes to your group to share their project. So you critique them, give them the feedback as peers, and then the teacher is there to see, and final feedback is what the teacher gives. So that is called paired consultation. You are reinvesting in your draft by revisiting it once the feedback has been given to you. Then the homework is isko khatam karke aana class ke bahar. It could be one of your homework. The final post production is, it could be presented in a forum to the home groups or class. If there are question answers, they know how to deal with them as question answer session. The content creation, so they become the creators of their own content they have created, and they formulate something which is commendable. Now, what you give them as evaluation or their checklist is, this left side is for you to check. Again, if I'm doing a science project, I'm checking a lot of English cross-curricular skills as well, which will save my time कि मैं उसके लिए अलग से एक evaluation या session नहीं करूंगी. So the one in the red, it says use targeted useful expressions and vocabulary, combination of expressions, pronunciation. Are they speaking in class? Well, are they participating in class routines? These kind of things are for your assessment. What you give them as a rubric is the one on the right, wherein you tell them, are you speaking in English always? Check. Are you being on the topic or it's deviated? Are you using phrases and vocabulary that we've practiced in school or at home? You encourage friends to speak up, or is it just you talking? That's their first evaluation, C1. When you look at C1, we talked about C1 as group work. Second was individual. This is how the rubric will be for individual. Again, you've got left side, which is for you. The investment is what we call it. And for them, at least 3 resources is what you could find. You take notes about animals, you use words and expressions, and you use your own ideas to explain. This is individual when you gave them the comprehension passage. So that was their evaluation and understanding. Once this is done, आपका role क्या था इसमें? Just to initiate the topic as a teacher and to make your life easy. अब मैं सिर्फ एक spectator की तरह show देख रही हूँ क्या हो रहा है और देख रहा हूँ. So here the last one for evaluation, which was to present it to the staff once they write the text. There is their presentation for writing. Again, this is a checklist for you when you're evaluating them at the end. You say, have you included 3 facts about your animal? Is your present, now present tense has nothing to do with science, but I want to include it ताकि मेरा काम English में easy हो जाए the child. और अगर नहीं होता majority of the class, I know I need to do one more lesson in English. So I am cross-curricular it. Capital letters, again, it's English. So they know there is a different checklist for them. They don't need to know that there are 2 different things the teacher is looking at. But what they know of their age level is what is presented to them. So the format is appealing, interesting. Once you give them that, this is the sheet it will look like on the paper. So they don't need 3 different papers. So whatever we discussed in this or this is presented on one paper in black. So this is where the child will always have that sheet from the beginning, that am I doing all of this? If this is all done, I will get a 10 on 10. If this is done, I will get a 10 on 10. And if my write-up is very well presented or my final product is very well presented and handed in time, I will get a 20. So it is very clear for the child. Now here, a little thing, when you give them work until they get hang of things, you will need to guide them. This means when you give them predefined roles and responsibilities, you know they will not be able to handle it. Say what you want them to be or what you want them to do. Be that model in the class that you are telling them. You are the teacher. At the end of the day, the teacher is the boss. Although we are doing student-centered activities, hand out with charts, with resources, with booklets. Like I did I was telling you for the rivers, I gave them a booklet with all what we could find around rivers, which states does it come across, and what are kind of animals. Then the research on the animals is what they had to do, what kind of plants, because we're talking about the ecosystem around that river. So they brought what kind of soil was there. It's totally on them. We never taught them about soils. They came up with brilliant ideas and they included their own points that what all could be explored. And helping them form groups, again, is your job to begin with. Now, what you need to make sure is, we're almost towards the end. So we need to make sure it is a project when it is written. Again, a guideline is given to them. It should be clear, simple instructions. So make it bulleted or list points, or maybe check boxes that they can do that. Check the parameters which are very clearly explained to them, which are explicit. What do you want them to do? The content, how much, the ideas, have them include their mind maps in there, grammar and vocabulary that they would want to use, the suggested formats. When do you want them to do it? The exact time, submission date and time, and what will be the criteria for evaluation, which is this sheet that you will give them from the beginning. So with this, you have completed your whole endangered animals. आपने उनको नहीं पढ़ाया, उन्होंने अपने आप से बहुत कुछ पढ़ लिया, and you just chose the topic and you just prepare an evaluation based on it. I did my evaluation just to be able to see whether the child knows it, whether he can speak loudly, he can present himself. कौन सा animal endangered will not come in future that they need to really know. If they know what is endangered animal and what basic structure looks like for a topic, is more than enough, honestly. So here is what our board looks like once we do it. So who's in your team? So this is what they will have as pre-production instructions. So who will sit with your team? The KWL chart, what I said was what they know of, what they want to know, and what they've learned. So this is a sheet that you will give them. You circle your top 3 ideas once you're done with it. For example, here they chose leopard, what it looks like, where it lives. These are the questions, the brainstorming, the mind mapping, what they want to know, what they already know, and what they have learned with the discussion. Maybe a friend knows it and they say, okay, aisa bhi tha. Okay, so here it is. So they are given this KWL chart. It is easily available, a template online, wherein when you type in a template of KWL empty chart, you will get that. It says what I know, what I want to know, and what I learned. Give them the sheet as a resource, have them fill in. It could be like a whole group, one sheet, or it could be individual. Then have them plan their topic with what your audience will be and what your purpose is, to explain how they have to do something, to give them an expression, to give them real situations, to make them some imaginary storyline. And here are there again mind mapping ideas. Who will it read for? What do they already know about my topic, which is my audience? So do they know already about this? What do I want them to know? So that would be kind of things. You would look at a plan on a lesson. Then your role as a guide on the side. Again, I said break the project into steps, help them structure their ideas, provide them framework and timelines to get it done, help them reflect on their learning by regular feedbacks, and evaluate their process and results through these feedbacks. So here was the past scenario wherein the teacher was here and students were just looking at her and following what she said. Here the teacher is on the guide and children are working. And believe you me, if you've never experienced it, you would never want to go back to traditional teaching. Now, what sir asked me, Rahul sir, for tools for effective PBL. Now here there are a lot of Google tools you can use. So like I am a Googleite, so through Googler, I will start with Google. You have Google Slides, which like I have made a Google slide for you. You can make it for them. Have you create, what I do is my grade 5s, they create a slide deck for them. The moment they create, the first instruction is share it with me. So I am there as an editor. And then and that goes. If you want to start yourself and if you've got enough devices in your school, you give them, allot them the Google slide through Google Classroom, and they will have a deck for their group. One of them will, and you will still have the hold of that Google slide. Then Google Forms can be used to create questionnaires for them. That could also be part of the project-based learning. Like the paper I gave KWL, questions can be transferred to Google Form, and they can still work as a team, one device per group, and they don't deviate. Not everybody has it to explore other things. Google Docs again can be used to make those mind maps. In Google Docs, you've got Google Drawings included. So if you look at the menu, insert drawing, you can draw your own different kind of maps, or you just go to drawings also. You can have a lot of pictorial representation of flow charts, mind mapping tools, and they can have those timelines they can represent and just type in. Google Sites, again, it's a free tool. They can create a site, or you can assign them a page wherein they can create that page is only accessible to them, and they can put up their showcasing and resources there. Jamboard again has those sticky notes and other resources they can explore. This is all about Google tools that you can use for PBL. Then you've got Padlet, where you generate the question and they put up their ideas like a whole class. That could also be given as a flipped classroom, wherein you give them a topic. You say, "Acha, ghar jaake is pe discuss karke soch ke I give you a little video." You can send them a video through Google Classroom, or I don't know what learning system your school works on, and share a pattern with them that once they see the video, what have they learned, what do they want to learn, and with their name they will get you will get information of what my students are interested in. It again saves time. Book Creator again is a very interesting tool wherein you have a lot of templates available, but you can start from scratch also. You can have comic strips there, and they've got lovely resources that have their third-party apps integrated. You can use a free account with almost 40 books that a teacher, a free account, can get, as long as you have an email ID, and you log into that. You create your own library, share that code with the students, and it works wonders. Same as with Canva. Canva is a beautiful design tool. Again, it's free. If you're a teacher and if you've not had a chance to go on to Canva, you just have to have your proof of being a teacher or a Google educator or any other education system you follow. If you've got nursery teacher training, B.Ed, or any other degree, or you've got a Google certification, you just have to apply. If not, you just apply with your qualification certificate and your school ID card. And you just have to post that. I think they take maximum 48 days to get you that Google for Education account. So if you go on to Google and Chrome or whatever you use, you just type in Google Canva for Education, you will get membership information. It is absolutely free, and they give you access in 48 hours if you're not there. So that again is a designing tool where you can give them, the students, you can share with them, and you can share infographics, you can share headers, different kind of banners, posters, videos with music, sound, animation, everything is included. So it's a blessing, Canva. It's a very quick tool. Storybird again is using your story sequencing and creating it. It's altogether a different platform for generally literature people, but as small as little ones, they have those small characters. You can create, build up your story. The background, it gives you an empty blank slate, and you manage with the background what all characters, and you can put the little bubbles as creating your story dialogues. And then you've got different quiz platforms like Quizzes, you've got Kahoot. These all are part and parcel of the project based learning. So with that, we come to the end of this presentation. I hope I could get across some ideas for you to start with the project based learning. If we have any questions, please go ahead, we can answer them now. I am going to, in the meanwhile, share the feedback form, so you can fill in that form as well. So here is the feedback form. It's a very short form. I try to make it as simple and short as possible. As soon as the I'm gonna recording, as soon as the recording is processed, I will be putting that link also in the different AIEF groups, so you can access the recording from there as well. And again, any questions? I'm waiting. Thank you, Vanna ma'am. So anytime anybody wants to have more clarification, I'm always available on different medias, so you can get hold of me anywhere socially. Amit sir, thank you for being a wonderful co-host. You've made life very easy with sharing and all. Thank you very much. Thank you, Catherine. Yes, sir. Please go ahead with your question.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, sir.
Thank you so much for such a nice information. Really, it's going to be very helpful for all of us, and we are really thank you for your efforts. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Well, once I can at least vouch on this, that once we start with project-based learning, believe you me, there is nothing more that you would want from yourself as a teacher. It is amazing, and going back will be a no-no. I honestly look for sessions and topics I pick up when you have a big curriculum to complete. We also have a French curriculum that we need to follow. So you try your best to put project-based learning जहाँ पे काम भी हो रहा है और आपका काम भी हल्का हो रहा है. So we are coming out of that pen paper structure, although that is needed, and we are working as the time allows. So at least one session per week we go on. So my projects are normally not one-day projects. They are 2 sessions, 3 sessions, 4 sessions, or even longer than that. So those kind of sessions or topics that I pick up, sometimes it's a whole period that we need to take the semester to complete that, because you've got other things lined up also, or school ke bhi bahut sari cheezein you have. So try at a smaller scale, and you will see how it goes, and it'll be quite interesting. You wouldn't want to come back. I understand, Vanna ma'am, time is a constraint, but I feel as the students are going into higher grades, it's easier to follow because they are more independent in that case. You don't have to follow them like the primary school kids. Of course, there are more subjects, more in-depth knowledge, but it could be maybe one project per year. Even that also calls for project-based learning. I'm sure you've got exhibitions and project works. So align them with this. If you're a subject teacher, align them with the with your subject, and you will see somewhere there'll be a scope somewhere. Even if it's a little part of it, you will find out a way. It's not impossible. It just has to be thought about how to go. And if you look on internet, there are n number of resources you can look up on internet, and you will get on project-based learning. Go ahead, Kirtima. Kirtima, you have a hand up. Would you want to ask a question? I'm going to stop recording here.